started, you can
Yeah.
actually talk to the people before we start the show.
Oh, okay. Oh, so this is
Oh,
a pre-show. I've never really approached it like that. So I know that people like the unscripted parts of shows, especially when things are falling apart. I've had a few times like that where I was trying to.
Twitch has accepted the stream.
Oh, good.
oh, it's streaming on Twitch.
Yep.
Oh, we're
Wow.
streaming on Twitch,
Okay.
which I
YouTube has accepted the stream.
YouTube.
Wow.
And Facebook has accepted the
Oh,
stream.
and you're going to put it on the Peace Center Facebook page too,
That's the
right?
perfect time to tell me.
Thank you.
So I'm going to do that right now.
Cool.
Yeah,
Hello.
I'm excited about this show. It'll be good.
I'm getting the link from Facebook so I can put it on the Peace Center page.
Wonderful.
You want
Thanks.
this thing for edits?
I'll use that at the end.
Okay.
Yeah, that's vital. I miss it when we do the show on Zoom and I'm at home. I don't have this thing to
Oh.
end the show with, so it
It's
just
fun.
feels very inadequate.
Yeah, yeah.
I used to have to start it with this as well.
Okay.
Now it starts on its own. So you'll see. Oh, and there'll be a timer that you'll see. And also we can see any comments that people are making, and we'll try to,
Oh.
include them, but not to get off the track of making sure, because especially the comments do end up, Richard, the comments do end up sometimes filling up the box beside it, so that people can't see. As a video show, they might not be able to see Jay. No.
That won't happen.
No, okay.
Is it like an only us sort of thing?
Yep.
Oh,
okay.
good. That's good to know.
Yeah, you're seeing the comments on the. In other words, you want me to get rid of this thing, right?
Well, I don't mind.
That's easy to do.
Yeah. Oh, good. Okay. Wonderful.
So
Yeah, I'm
we
so
just hit
geared
that
to.
and
Yeah.
it goes away.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wonderful. Great. Thanks.
But on the internal studio monitor, you will always see the comments.
Yeah, which is good. We'd like to see them.
Then you can either ignore them or
Yeah.
address them.
So it's streaming on all those places. So that's 4 different places it's streaming.
3.
Well, 3, except that it's Think Twice Radio and Western New York Peace Center.
Okay, you're
Facebook
counting that.
pages.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
would make it 4. Yeah.
Yeah, and then of course it'll be permanently housed on the Western New York Peace Center YouTube channel, and of course it will be broadcast on WBNY on Monday at 1 p.m. too.
Oh,
You
okay.
guys got a pretty sophisticated operation here.
Yeah,
we
it
do.
is.
It's been years of development, you know.
Very
Okay,
nice.
it is on the Peace Center site, so
Wonderful.
that is done. Now, I'm going to reset the timer
Oh, and there's
and tell
paper
me
if
when
need
you
paper
are.
or
Thank-
pencils.
Tell me
or
when
anything.
you are ready, Vicki.
Yeah.
And when you're ready, I'll start the timer.
I'm ready.
When it says on the air, you're on the air.
Wonderful. Thanks. Welcome to Talking Peace with the Western New York Peace Center, being recorded here at Think Twice Radio in the home of the future. Also, the home of our friend and producer, Richard Wicca. Thank you, Richard. And we thank our friends at WBNY, Buffalo's original alternative radio station, 91.3 FM. Thank you, Buff State and WBNY. So when I think of thankfulness, I do think of our indigenous friends and really all BIPOC people, people of color and marginalized people very often, and some other people too. Just know that thankfulness is so important to our happiness and well-being, to realize our blessings. And certainly the Haudenosaunee are very full of thankfulness. The Haudenosaunee, or the Western name, Iroquois Confederacy, that we are on stolen Haudenosaunee land of the Seneca or Onondaga, that has been taken through trickery and violence, and in spite of that, they still start all of their events off with the words that come before all else, which are those of thankfulness for the people who made the gathering possible and who are there. Thankfulness for Mother Earth and all the things that she gives us to make a good life here possible, which we have everything we need to make a good life possible. And Mini-Wachoni, the water, the living waters, the wonderful plants, nutritional and medicinal, and the animals of all kinds, the trees, and all of the different phenomena in and of our world, and then also in the sky world, the brother sun and grandmother moon, and all of the creation in the sky world, and the creator, and of course the love that animates it all. So then they say Yahweh, and basically thanks to the creator, and then the people say no. So Yahweh.
Yahweh.
And so you say no.
Yo.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Well, I'm very thankful for our guests who are on tonight, and I'm thankful for our ability to do a show on this, the local activity of ICE and Border Patrol here in Western New York. They have been very active, increasingly active. I also want to mention Homeland Security, so we'll get into the weeds about all of that. But first I want to introduce our guests, or our very honored and treasured guests. So first, J. Dale Shoemaker. Dale, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me on the show.
So Dale, of course, is with the Investigative Post, and anybody who's following local activity of ICE and Border Patrol has probably seen many of your articles, hopefully all of your articles, about this very terrible subject, and just a lot of things that people, it's just turning our communities inside out, causing all kinds of fear and havoc, and just very, very big concern. So thank you, Dale, for all your work and for coming on today.
Happy to be here.
And Jay Morel. Jay is with Buffalo Rapid Response Network. We were just at a meeting of Rapid Response Network Saturday. Mm-hmm. So it's great to be here with you, and such important work that you do. And we were just working on activities on Thursday as well. So there's a lot happening.
Yeah. Thank you for having me, and excited to talk to you both and do this.
Yeah, well, it's so important. So what we like to start off with is a values piece, because I think values in our work, the principles and the spirit that animates our work is really vital to that work being valid, being helpful. And so let's just go around. When we think of local activity about ICE and Border Patrol and activities around that activity, like reporting or responding or preventing or any of those activities, what are the principles, what are the values that you think of as being important? So we'll go first to you, Dale.
Well, I am, as you mentioned, a journalist. So I'm speaking here in my professional capacity, I suppose. I'm going to say that I value transparency, which is something that is unfortunately lacking generally from the government, but also in particular this administration. There are, I'm trying to think, probably a good dozen, somewhere between a dozen and 2 dozen FOIA requests that I have filed over the last year. Very infrequently do I get a satisfactory request, especially in a timely fashion. To those FOIA requests, there's all sorts of information that the government has about who is working for them, who they are detaining, what they are doing, etc., that we have been seeking, and we don't always get good information, or any information, I should say. So without going on too much longer, I will say that I value transparency, and I'm always banging my head against the wall trying to get as much information as possible.
I'm so sorry, and I'm so not surprised. So, and especially on this, or whenever I'm going to say that lack of transparency is a great big red flag that just shows us how much they know what they're doing is wrong. Anyway, I did say I'm going to try to tone down the let's say passion of the discussion a little bit this time. But anyway, so thank you for that. And Jay, what would you say the values in your that you see in relation
Yeah,
to this work?
I think what's most important with this work is just community. You know, like we just have to come together as a people, and I see how fear has kind of gripped some folks and like kept them in isolation, and it breaks my heart because you know that's we need less of that. We need to come together.
Well, it's so important. It like you say, and this is really, I mean, this is survival. This is for so many people. This is so huge. You know, some of us have some distance from it, or at least aren't um, actually being held. You know, being threatened,
Yeah.
and yet I want to say we're all being threatened. Yeah. But anyway, so thank you for that. So that's so important. And for me, I'm going to stick with the usual ones that I like to bring up. Um, truth and love. So I think of when Reverend Dr. King said, I believe that unarmed truth and unconditional love will have the final word in reality. That is why good temporarily defeated is stronger than evil triumphant. So that gives me some courage. And I want to say truth and love is that balancing thing. So love is so clear to me, so important. You know, love makes the world go round. Love gives meaning to our world, and it's love for each other that makes us want to care about what's going on around us, about how our loved ones or community members are being treated. It's just loving people. Um, I'm very glad that Courtney is glad that Courtney. Thank you for your comment. We're happy you found the show too. And as far as truth, I want to say truth. It goes back into your point, Dale. So truth being critical. So we can love anybody and everybody. And even if they're doing a lot of bad acts, there might be a point where the bad acts get so cumbersome it's really hard. But I do believe that we're all made of the same. We're all uh, interrelated and interconnected. And so, we have to love each other. However, that doesn't mean that everything is okay, and that doesn't mean that we need to shy away. We need to not shy away from talking about the truth of what's happening. And then let's hear it from people, their truth. Why they think it's okay or something. Let's talk about that. Let's examine and let's get the real facts of what's happening. So Dale and we've talked plenty about that. So we're going to be very fact oriented during this show, more than usual. So anyway, but the facts are always critical. But as we know, facts like statistics, sometimes people do rework them or eliminate some pieces of them. So we're going to be very as thorough as we can. So Dale, let us start with, if you could tell us a little bit about, with an emphasis on what's happening now and a little bit of a perspective on how it's been ramping up, about the activity of ICE and Border Patrol. Of course, we're on the border. We couldn't be any more on the border than we already are. So that has implications about Homeland Security and all of that. So if you could just, start telling us how.
Sure.
Yeah, thanks.
So to start at the very beginning, I've been on the the immigration beat for investigativepost.org. Just briefly, we're an independent nonprofit media outlet here based in Buffalo. We cover Western New York, the 8
Yes.
counties. Occasionally, we'll stray a little beyond the 8 counties, but we tend to keep our focus, on Buffalo, Erie County, Niagara County, and the outlying counties as well. I've been on the immigration beat for about a year now. and right as things were beginning to ramp up, so I have been doing some reading and some research to kind of understand what the situation was prior to 2025 and the Trump administration, and then reporting throughout the year as things have in fact ramped up. To give you just a brief piece of context for what we mean when we say things have ramped up, there's a great group of researchers. I believe they're associated with UCLA. In California, a team of researchers, lawyers, academics. They have a program out there called the Deportation Data Project. They have some rolling FOIA lawsuits that allow them to regularly obtain government data on arrests, deportations, and things like that. So these numbers come from the Deportation Data Project. They are regularly updating their data sets. So from there, we know that in the Western New York region, in all of 2024, there were 785 immigration arrests. I'm sorry, just to define my geography a little bit better there. This is in the Buffalo sector of ICE. So the Buffalo sector of ICE covers the majority of upstate New York. There's a handful of, what a New York City person would consider upstate that is not included in that. It's like 48, I believe, of the 62 counties
Really?
is the Buffalo sector of ICE.
Wow.
So in that entire upstate, upstate, central, North Country, Western New York region, in all of 2024, there were 785 immigration arrests. So that pretty big land area, 785 arrests, so ballpark 800 there. Through the mid part of this year, I believe this data is current through July, through end of July. Arrests have jumped to nearly 1,500 in that same geography. So only part of the way through this year, and we've seen close to a doubling of immigration arrests in the Buffalo sector of ICE. So we, as patterns continue, we can presume that we will have well more than doubled immigration arrests. And, news coverage and press releases, will have pointed in this direction already. We'll be able to tell for sure once we get the full data set, probably early next year. But the majority of that activity is concentrated in the urban areas, so Buffalo, Rochester, Syracuse, and some of the outlying regions around those cities.
So, which really means presumably, the data will, we'll see. We haven't gotten to the end of the year yet, and they don't have the data, but it would be 4 times as much, right? If it's a doubling in a half a year, then it would possibly be a quadrupling.
Possibly so. We'll have to see what the final numbers say, but
Right.
but we're on pace for a pretty significant increase this year.
Right. Do you have a question or a reaction?
I'm not surprised that
Right.
it's
Right.
been such an uptick. Even in November before the elections were kind of settled. Or no, it was after. I was telling people this Thanksgiving is one that is a little hard for me because depending on how things go, numbers are not at the table.
What? I'm sorry, I didn't hear that last part.
I was just saying, last Thanksgiving, after the election and all that stuff, I was
Right.
looking around the table and I'm just this might be the last time I see some folks, come next year, and so, yeah, I've been mentally preparing for this for
Right.
a while.
There's a lot of people who were really, well, the fear is palpable, for sure. And so let's talk a little bit about some of the, if you could tell us about some of the recent local activity. And I want to start working backwards because I haven't been involved in a lot of rapid response things yet until recently. So, for example, the fact that the site was just blocks away from me. So I heard about these 4 people who were being arrested, being knocked over and arrested on Elmwood Avenue. I heard about it in time to get there. I got there as the last ICE person, unmasked, by the way, very unusual. He was unmasked. As that last person was leaving. And I want to say that when I stopped him, I said, "What are you doing?" He was actually getting the phone that had been knocked out of the hand of one of the people who was knocked over and arrested and detained. He said, "I'm just doing my job." And I said, "Well, your job is wrong." So, and certainly their tactics and everything about that. So if you can tell us some more, tell us about this particular arrest and what we do know so far.
Sure,
please.
Yeah, so just give you the basics here. The morning of November 13th, last week, fairly early in the morning, there was an ICE action on the block of Elmwood where the Spot Coffee, the Panera, and the Aguacate's Mexican restaurant is, that kind of right in a row right there.
Right.
There was actually, I got contacted about this by a woman who happened to be doing work on her laptop in the Panera and saw the arrests unfold right outside, and hopped out of the cafe to take some photos of what was going on. ICE told me later that this was, quote, the result of an ongoing investigation. They had targeted 4 people in that area. The photos and videos are pretty stark. ICE says they were resisting arrest. One guy got knocked to the ground, was kind of forcibly arrested, gets, loaded into the back of the car. Same deal with some of the other fellas there. We know that, 4 guys, they're all in their early to mid 30s. Manuel, 33, from Mexico. Luciano, 30, from Mexico. Vicente, 31, from Guatemala. And Geronimo, 37, from Guatemala. They were then, taken, booked into Batavia Detention Center.
They did take them to Batavia.
Per my understanding, yeah. And ICE in their statement says, our increased presence is the result of President Trump and Secretary Noem's commitment to enforcing our nation's immigration laws. And they go on from there. So following that action, I think there was, the word spread pretty quickly. The photos were shared fairly widely. I posted what I was able to find on Twitter. And eventually later that evening, there was a protest on that block in front of those 3 restaurants. There was a pretty strong showing from what I saw. I think at the peak there was maybe approaching 100 people there. A lot of chanting, a lot of honking, a lot of signs, and that's what we know.
Well, so I want to turn it over to you because actually we were working together on that, Jay, if you want to. I know the Western New York Peace Center and the Buffalo Rapid Response Network were 2 groups that were helping to get, I'm going to say, when we decided to do a protest within 2 hours, that was the result in 2 hours. So if you want to talk a little bit about that.
About the protest?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I attended it. It was well attended. Lots of folks. And yeah, it was good to just see like the rallying of folks there. And
Well, I want to say, because I came upon it while it was happening, and then I saw a lot of the people who had taken. So what I want to say is the reaction from the people, and these are not people who've been pre-selected or anything like that, from the storekeepers or the passersby or the people sitting in the coffee shop, was immediate upset, immediate defense of our neighbors, friends, neighbors, people, good people who have been doing a job. I'm certainly Aguacate is a very much loved restaurant. Everybody there is, is community person, is thoughtful. The food is great. The people are working hard for the community. And so the community really rallied around those people. We put out a press release, but we also sent it out on various networks, formally and informally, about, let's gather from 4:30 to 5:30. And the result was something between 75 and 100. And I would say definitely 100 because of churn, because it was cold. It was a cold day, and it was a first cold day in a long while. So that's another thing that really, because people are not prepared. A lot of times, if it's been warmer, we think it must still be warmer, and then we're out there for a while, and we see it is definitely not warmer. But I was just really thrilled with the response of the community, that people care. And the other thing was, when we were talking about, well, it's our community. Well, it's our whole community. So I don't care if it was on the east side, the west side, the north or south side, center, downtown, any place you want to pick. It wasn't just because the thing was I could get there on time, before they had all dispersed, because it was right there. But I know, when it's been up on Niagara Falls Boulevard or somewhere else farther afield, it's harder for me to get there on time. I'm not the quickest on getting out of the house too. But so that's part of it. But it's happening to us in Western New York, in this whole, as you said, that whole large 40-some county area, or beyond. I mean, the whole country,
I will say that these types of actions from ICE, Homeland Security Investigations was on scene at this particular one, other agencies. These types of actions in kind of a heavily populated, highly trafficked area are perhaps not the norm in this region. They have, I can talk a little bit about like what we know about who's being
Please.
targeted here.
Please.
I'll give you another recent example of one I'm, kind of tracking down right now. They put out a press release about this, so this is, some of this information is out there already. They
Sure.
did this is Customs and Border Protection. They did this quote unquote targeted enforcement operation where they stationed agents at truck stops along the thruway in Western New York, and went up to the long road truckers in their parked trucks, and they checked immigration papers, and they just truck to truck checked papers, and they ended up taking 37 people. It was a pretty big operation. So that's not that's. You don't have a lot of people necessarily living near the truck stop,
Right.
off the thruway. You're not going to necessarily be able to get 100 people out of the house in 2 hours and actually get to the thruway truck stop and then be able
Right.
to have that kind of action, because they go in, they do their thing, they leave. So there's that one, for example.
So which truck stop? I'm sorry to interrupt.
It was a handful of them. I'm not going to remember all of them off the top of my head. I know one was located in Corfu. I think one was maybe in Clarence. In the Western New York throughway
But just along
corridor.
the throughway.
There was 4 that they had named. I'm blanking on all of them.
That's
and
all right.
Top of my head. But that is kind of exemplifies the pattern of their activity, where, for example, they target a lot of roofing companies, and so they'll locate a company, they'll kind of trail the workers or the work vans for a little while, and then they'll find either at a motel where workers are staying, or at the job site, or on their way to or from the job site. They'll kind of know, okay, these workers for this company are going to be in this neighborhood, we're going to target them there. And they'll get 4, 5, 6, occasionally more at a time, and they will be detained and taken, to Batavia, and, in some cases deported. So it's these kind of smaller one-off things where, you might have a neighborhood in Amherst, or a neighborhood in, one of the other suburbs that has this type of arrest, and it's over and done before word even gets out.
Right.
You don't always have that, highly trafficked area where someone's going to go, oh my God, look, they're arresting somebody right now.
Right. Right. Good point. And they might, well, for good and for ill, but it might discourage them because there was such a response. And so it was so very present.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing to note with like the Elmwood incident is just that you were a few blocks away, but like we had folks show up like maybe 15 minutes after our report came in, and by
Right.
then it was all done. So
And it was still already done.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. So
Right,
I mean,
right.
even when we have like people nearby, like able to respond in like a quote unquote timely fashion, like chances are they're already gone.
Yeah, I might have taken 20 minutes, I think. It wasn't that too bad.
Yeah. So
But you're right. But it doesn't take long to abduct somebody, especially when you're trailing them.
yeah. So that's been like a pretty big challenge for like the response network.
Mm-hmm.
One we're like still trying to navigate, but
Right.
yeah, it is challenging.
Right. One thing I wanted to mention while we're still on this one that happened on Elmwood is that one of those young men just had shoulder surgery. So, it's just, there's just no thought. Also, I was just hearing about another incident where there was somebody who was just taken in Buffalo from their immigration trial or session, immigration court session. They were taken by ICE as they're leaving, or I don't even know, and I don't know how much it matters whether they were going there or they were leaving there. They were there for their hearing, so they were doing what they're supposed to do. And there are international laws about asylum that we are signed on to give people asylum. They can come in with an asylum claim. And so what we're doing is breaking international law, breaking our own laws, and our own Constitution says that all of our treaties and international agreements are the supreme law of the land of equal force with the Constitution. In fact, I have a copy of the Constitution that I carry around with me, so I could check and see. I think it's Article 6, Paragraph 2. Something like that. I won't check it now. I'm not sure. I do have it with me right now. But anyway, the point is that's the law, the supreme law of the land of equal force with the Constitution.
I'm glad you mentioned the immigration court arrests. We reported on that several months ago. It's an ongoing issue. What we know about that is that, you have, as you said, you have people who have asylum claims. The general, I'll give like a very rough outline for folks just in case they don't understand kind of how the process works.
Please.
There's many people, immigrants in this country who enter, whether they cross the border between crossings or they cross at an official port of entry, who are then encountered, that's usually the word they use, encountered by Border Patrol or other immigration authorities. Upon that encounter, the person will make a claim for refugee status or asylum status. They are then paroled into the country. That's the official term, is they are, quote unquote, on parole,
Right.
saying, you can go live your life, but you've got to show up for immigration court while your claim is pending. Some people will say they'll make a claim under the Convention Against Torture.
Right.
Others will have other claims. But as that process winds its way through the immigration courts, you can, apply for a work permit. You can, go rent an apartment. You can, go find a job, live your life, etc. While people are then moving through that, and this is a years-long process in many cases, as you're moving through that years-long process, you show up for your court date. What we're seeing now is that people will show up in immigration court for their hearings. If the judge, and there's a very high rate of judges ruling against asylum claims. Every once in a while, you'll find a judge who rules like 50-50, 50% approved, 50% denied. That's pretty rare. The denial rate is a lot higher nationwide. I don't know the particular number, but it's in the 70-80%.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
So you show up for immigration court. What they're doing now is when somebody has their asylum bid denied, they then leave the courthouse, and in Buffalo, they will take the elevator down from the immigration court into the lobby. There will be typically plainclothes ICE agents waiting in the lobby or just outside of the court who then detain the person. And they are then booked and eventually taken to some kind of detention center. Now, the way the legal process works is if the immigration judge, denies your claim, you have several levels of appeals. You can appeal first up to the Board of Immigration Appeals. If the Board of Immigration Appeals denies you, you can then appeal to the circuit courts. You have at least 2 layers, sometimes more if you have a very smart, very savvy attorney, but at least 2 layers of appeals you can go through. And so and each of those takes years. So you can have, years and years and years and years where your case is pending, and you're, fighting for your asylum or your refugee claim. But instead, they are detaining people who have those appeal rights, taking them to Batavia, or if in the case of women now, women are being held at the Niagara County Jail in Lockport. The Niagara County Sheriff has a contract with ICE to hold immigrant detainees. There is, smarter attorneys out there who can talk about this, in a more intelligent way than I can, but there was a recent Board of Immigration Appeals ruling that the government is now using to detain most people in immigration detention. It's causing the detention centers to become even more full than they already were. Even fewer people are being released during their appeals process. The one immediate result of this is that the number of habeas corpus lawsuits, the type of lawsuits that a lawyer will file to get somebody out of immigration detention, the number of those, at least in this region, has skyrocketed in recent months. You had a pretty steady pace. Because I go to federal court, I check this kind of stuff.
Right.
It was pretty steady throughout the bulk of the year, kind of on a little bit ahead of pace of last year. It was on pace to be an increase over last year, but in recent months the number just went way up because of this recent Board of Immigration Appeals ruling that is now mandating more people held. And on that note, I'll say one more thing. We have an ICE detention center here in Western New York. It's located in Batavia, right off of the Thruway.
Right.
And that detention center, it has a capacity of 650 beds. It has been above capacity most days, I believe, since the month of June. We were able to get some data showing the daily population count, and at times it approaches 800. So there have been reports of people sleeping on the floor. There have been reports of overcrowding and the resulting things that come from packing a lot of people into one place. And this is, just to paint a little bit of a picture, this is not a very, I don't know, I'm not trying to, I don't know what the right adjective is to use. It is a place where somebody is locked up in a cell 16 to 18 hours a day. This is not your type of state or federal prison where you have a lot of freedom to leave your cell, to go to the library, to go to the exercise yard, to do things. This is a place where somebody is either in their cell, or they are eating a meal, or they get a very brief reprieve in a library or the exercise yard. Solitary confinement is heavily used at this facility. There's an ongoing lawsuit regarding various conditions there. I've reported on other matters of the conditions at that facility. But it is that type of very heavily carceral facility that is overcrowded because of the increase in arrests that we were talking about, and because of the legal maneuvers in the immigration court system that is now keeping more people detained.
So let me. So, do you have a question you want to ask? I do have a few. If you don't,
No,
but is there something or
yeah.
reaction you want to share?
I just wanted to share that there are people that kind of volunteer to be at the courts to kind of just kind kind of like document these proceedings, that like the abductions and such. So folks like want to get involved. There are avenues for that. I don't know if we'll
So we're definitely going to talk some more about
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
And I mean, that is so critical. And we're about at the point where we need to shift. There's a lot we're trying to cover right here, right now. So one thing I want to ask before we move off onto more about what people can do
Yeah.
and how the Buffalo Rapid Response Network and Justice for Migrant Families and other efforts that are going on. I want to ask you about medical care there.
Yeah, so
I know you've reported on this. So.
Yeah, that was our latest, big investigation that we published a few weeks ago into the substandard medical care that is afforded to
Yes.
detainees at the Batavia facility. Just to kind of give a little bit of context, this is not a issue unique to this area. This is something
Right.
that is endemic across the network of ICE facilities. There was a very good investigation that NPR did in 2023 based on some documents they were able to win through a FOIA lawsuit that showed many other facilities across the country run by ICE or ICE contractors have these types of issues. I was able to do a deep dive on our facility here in Batavia and learn a lot more about the type of care. There's a handful of cases that came to me through activists and lawyers and the detainees themselves. There were other cases that we learned of through lawsuits that had been filed. The long and the short of it is that the medical care there is very subpar. To give you a couple of examples, there was one man who I had the opportunity to interview a couple of times, originally from Nigeria. His name is Chidi. He saw those early Trump raids, or early ICE raids in this Trump administration. The ones that are very obviously produced for television and social media, and Secretary Noem comes out and it really broadcasts their crackdown efforts. He saw those and grew very fearful, grew afraid.
Right.
Ultimately landed on a plan to pay a smuggler to usher him into Canada. So he paid $2,000 to a smuggler to drive him to the Quebec border. That journey required that he cross into Canada himself on foot. While he was doing that, now, mind you, he's trying to move to Canada, so he's got a very heavy backpack full of many belongings on his back. Trudging through, at times he said, waist-deep snow in the brush and the February cold. You can imagine that it's not the nicest walk you're on.
Right, no.
Gets stuck in the snow with a woman that he's with and says, we're stuck, we gotta call for help. So he calls 911, kind of thinking, we're screwed, this is the end of the road. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police show up, and he's like, at first I was elated. I was like, we actually made it into Canada. We did it. This is the Canadian police coming to rescue us. Gets taken to a Canadian Border Patrol station. He gets some medical care. He's makes his bid for asylum into Canada. The way that this is going to get into a little bit of the weeds. The Safe Third Countries Agreement is what kind of governs the movement of people between Mexico, United States, and Canada. A lot of restrictions in place through that agreement, but one loophole should, if you put it that way, is that if you have family in the other country, you can make an asylum claim. So he has a brother who lives in Canada. He was going to attempt to make an asylum claim through his brother. Canadian authorities cannot contact his brother. He's eventually turned back to the U.S. By this point, he's in the hospital. He's got frostbite on his hands, pretty severe. He's later discharged from the hospital, and the doctor, and he handed his discharge papers to me, so I've read this. His discharge papers say very explicitly, you've got to go see a specialist within a week. And the doctor, gives the name and the practice of this specialist, says, go see this guy. He'll be able to treat you. This is a doctor in Rochester. ICE takes him into custody in Batavia. They never take him to that appointment. He is more or less denied care for his frostbitten fingers for more than 2 weeks. He is later taken to a different doctor at a different practice, and by the time he sees that doctor, the doctor says, your fingers are too far gone, we have to amputate.
Right.
He later loses parts of 6 fingers. He says that his left hand is pretty badly changed now. He
Right.
describes it as a permanent physical disability.
Right.
Right hand not so much,
Sure.
but you can imagine, if you're used to
Sure.
having 2 hands, now you've
Right.
got less use of one of them. That is perhaps one of the more egregious examples, but there are other examples of folks who end up in Batavia, need some kind of medical care, and they
Right.
do not get it.
Right.
Another example is this fella Douglas. I got a chance to interview. He was finishing up a federal prison sentence, falls down a set of stairs, gets a bad concussion. In the hospital, the doctor discharges him and says, you've got to take all these medications and you have to go to inpatient physical therapy. He knocked his head around so bad he's got to go to physical therapy to heal up. Does not get all the medications he needs, does not get the physical therapy. He is now having to use a walker to get around because his condition deteriorated due to the lack of care.
Right.
Both Chidi and Douglas were later deported to Nigeria, where they have less access to the care they need. The other stories run the gamut. Somebody needs medication, they don't get the medication. Somebody needs other medical care, they don't get the medical care. In another case that we covered, there was a gentleman who was healthy when he entered. He refused to sign some paperwork. The ICE guards beat him up. He alleged that they broke his fingers, and he's saying to the guards over and over, my fingers are broken, my fingers are broken, you need to, provide me treatment from my fingers. They say, you're fine, your fingers aren't broken. They don't perform an x-ray for a month.
Oh my God. So yeah, you've painted quite the picture. So and there's so much to tell, and we're so grateful to have you telling it. So first of all, I want to suggest to people, go to Investigative Post. You can read all about these stories and other stories. I want to go on to a little bit about what people can do. And first, before anything, I want to mention there is. Well, anyway, let me you take it away. We have about 10 minutes for you to tell, what are the ways that people can help through, let's say, especially Buffalo Rapid Response Network. And we can talk a little bit too about certainly Justice for Migrant Families that I volunteer for, and also Bird as well. So, Jay.
Yeah, so some things people can do to volunteer is, we have a website, brrn.info, where you can sign up to volunteer. You can report sightings, and, when reports come in, we first try to verify, is this legitimate? Try to filter through any false reports. And then from there, depending on the situation, we move into a documentation kind of a process. And then the other thing is because it does require such a quick turnaround time on some of these things, the goal is to have more and more people in these various neighborhoods that when a report comes in, someone hopefully in that neighborhood can respond to these things.
So I'm thinking about BIRD and their rapid response helpline.
Yes.
The helpline.
Yeah.
So first of all, I've learned that number. I think, let me just check my brain here. 716-222-29. Oh,
there's an 8 in there. Something.
281. Oh, okay. So check it for me.
Yeah.
I didn't manage. I thought I'd still remember it from last week. 716-222-2810. Is that right?
2190.
2190.
Yes.
2190. Okay, yeah, I did think there was a 9 in there. So 2190-222-2910, that people can call that. And so now what happens if people call that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not too familiar. so Bird's like kind of like a separate entity.
Right.
So I know that when they have requests or like reports that come in, that they don't have like the people to like verify those things, then it like gets forwarded to us. But yeah, there's not like a
Okay, so
uh,
we're not at that point yet where it's that, so we're still building, an ability to know what's going on and to protect people, because I want to make that point of, so I know Justice for Migrant Families, I want to
mhm,
say, is doing a wonderful job as well with different kinds of support, and most of them are sort of lateral in a way.
mhm,
So there's I'm one of the things I help with is the Batavia phone line. So there's a hotline of the Batavia phone line that people can call to get either put on the list for, it's a wait list for commissary for $25 for commissary, or for a book. There's a program for sending people book, an attempt to get legal help or a lawyer for people, which, we don't guarantee that they will get a lawyer, but we will try to get them a lawyer. And some of the people, especially one of the people who's really in charge of that phone line, is very well versed in the legal questions, so they can help quite a bit. Um, or other things, also bail. That's one of the other things, if they're eligible for bail. And also there's a whole court support program and other
mhm,
support programs. Back to what we were saying, people are afraid to go grocery shop, they're afraid to leave the house, to support people with all of that. And what I want to really emphasize is that we know that the Supreme Court has decided that based on people's appearance or language that they're speaking, some suspicion that people might not be from here, even though they might be from here, is still enough to get a person detained. So once they're in the system, if they don't, and do we all have to walk around with our, it's the thin end of the wedge. And it's back to the Martin Niemöller quote, which said, you know, well, first they came for the communists, and I didn't say anything because I wasn't a communist. Then they came for the socialists, and I didn't say anything because I wasn't a socialist. They came for the trade unionists, and I didn't say anything, and the Jews, and the this, and this. And then finally, when they came for me, there was no one left to say anything. So I'm going to say, as activists, they also come for the activists. That's
mhm.
one other thing. So I really appreciate both of you so much of the work that you're doing, because it's just the work that the people who are doing wrong do not want. And I want to say, I mean, we just had an example of, a professor who was born in this country, is Muslim, and looks, like he might be from another country. So even though he's born and raised here, he's a full citizen. There's nothing, but he could be taken. And he was in Chicago, so he was afraid that he might get taken, because and this has been legitimized. So what they're doing is taking illegal acts and change the law to make them legal. So it's legal now to take people based on their appearance or the language they're speaking. I mean, that is outrageous, just outrageous to me. So Buffalo Rapid Response Network, if you want to say just a little bit more about, how people can help, what your vision is for people to sign up and get connected to be able to help.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like I said, you can sign up on the website brrn.info. And
And it's just brrn.info and nothing else.
nothing else. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you can sign up there, and then yeah, a lot of the work has been reactionary.
Mm-hmm.
Based on like sightings, and then
Right.
if we know that like families or like individuals are being targeted, then like we can do a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it is there's a big gap in terms of information, because immigration agencies, they know who they're going for, and
Right.
it's hard for us to do the work that we do, because like you have to first, connect with the possibly targeted individuals and families and say
Right.
like, hey, like, we are trying to help, and just establish trust and make sure they feel safe before any of that kind of like work can begin. So
Right.
yeah, just kind of like working to just kind of build more of that like community trust, and like people already have like are well connected in their neighborhoods, then they would be a huge help to our work, because that reduces like the kind of work to establish these
Right.
kinds of things there. So yeah.
So it's really a case of we need to build it, so that they won't come, so that, and I mean ICE and Border Patrol and Homeland Security, because I did see that Homeland Security was at that one, at the Elmwood one.
Yeah.
And we also know that this is happening to, in some of the farmers have been very vocal. Actually, I want to tout the praises of Western New York Peace Center's Latin American Solidarity Committee, which has been having a series on ICE. And Dale, of course, you've been on that. I think you might have been the first one.
Honored.
Yeah. So you did a great job, and you've been doing just so much of helping. The BRRN is one website that people should go to. BRRN.info.
Yes.
BRRN.info. And of course, Investigative Post is at
Investigativepost.org.
investigativepost.org.
Yeah.
Nice and simple. Keep
Yeah.
it simple. That's the way we like to keep it. And of course, Justice for Migrant Families, which is such a great group, is jfmf.org, I believe. But the other thing I could say is DuckDuckGo it. You'll find it very easily. And they have all kinds of ways that people can volunteer to accompany people, or just, help them with grocery shopping, or back to court support, get trained for court support, or for the Batavia phone line, or for sending books to people who want the books. But there's such a lot to do. And it really is so important that we understand that the things that are going on now, it's the thin end of the wedge. So there's all the fear and work that people are doing to demonize immigrants and refugees who are doing huge amounts of work in this country. They've been needed, desperately needed. If you watch I'll just never forget what Stephen Colbert was talking about, how he wanted to see, the work that migrant workers are doing. So he thought, well, let me just go and do it. And he really, and he did it. It was kind of funny. Of course, he's a comedian anyway. But just how hard people work. Oh, my God. So for some of us who are not as physically fit, who have not, dealt with that kind of really hard labor, you need somebody who's willing to do that labor. So the farmers are just beside themselves because their staff is being attacked, accosted, driven away, made fearful, and everything else. What were you going to say?
Oh, I have something funny to say, if
Yes,
I'm allowed
good.
to say something
Yes,
funny.
please.
When I was
We need
reporting over the summer on the fact that ICE is going after a lot of roofing crews, I was talking to some people who own roofing and home construction companies. And I'll never forget this one guy I interviewed. He owns a roofing company here in Erie County. He asked that I not publish his name, which we requested.
Right.
But he's had a number of his crew members arrested and detained by ICE. He's tried to advocate on their behalf to get them out.
Right.
And at one point during our interview, I asked him, I was like, so are these arrests going to affect your business? And he said, absolutely they are. He's like, I would estimate that about 15% of roofing crews in this area are white, and they all suck.
Right. Well, we won't be surprised about that because it's back to the point I was just making. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's right. People, you have to have people who are willing and able to do the work. And so we are, we're stronger together. We need, and we are, oh, I have to mention this, you know, no one is illegal on stolen land. If anyone who hasn't seen that, it's a wonderful poster, or I've seen it as a print, you know, that indigenous people made, or I don't know if indigenous people made, I don't know who made it, but it's a very important point because those of us who came as settler invaders, you know, if our families came in that way, what are we talking about illegal, legal or illegal? So, and also that money and everything can move around, and what about, why can't people? So anyway, so if you have any final thought, something you want to mention that you didn't mention, Dale? We have about a half a minute, not even.
Oh, my only thing to say to the general audience is that if you are aware of any ICE or customs activity, or there's any kind of immigration related activity that you would like a journalist to know about,
Yes.
you can find my email pretty easily on investigativepost.org. It's JD Shoemaker at investigativepost.org. I am always accepting tips and info and things like that. So. Send information my way. I mentioned at the top of the show that the federal government is not always the most transparent, so we find out about these things through a number of different channels, and perhaps that's you.
Right, right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dale. And Jay,
Yeah.
anything special? Any last final moment, brief word?
Yeah. Just that this stuff is happening like every day, and it's only getting worse. And so if you are on the fence about like helping, or you're not sure what to do, please reach out. Go to that website, and we'll get you plugged in.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful to both of you. There's so much work. It's so important, and we are all in this together. And I couldn't be more grateful to both of you for all you're doing. So this is Talking Peace, and together we've been talking peace in truth and love. Thank you so much. It's a wrap.